Life is beautiful. And I've been thinking about it a lot because on social media, it's very easy to forget how much we have. You know, it's easy to not be happy because of what you see online. And also the things that happen to you, it's very easy to think that those are a determinant of how you should feel. For example, girlfriend breaks up with you. Classic, heartbroken, terrible moment. Everything sucks. But now you have more free time to get on the grind. You have more time to spend with people who genuinely care, because if she cared, she'd still be here. You know? It's often a blessing in disguise in some way, shape, or form. And many people who are religious believe that everything happens for a reason, right? At the end of the day, it's God's will if you believe in it, right? Whatever religion you believe in, it's very easy to remember that everything does happen for a reason. This brings me back to that old story where what you think is much more important than what happens to you. And it was a story about
A farmer.
Damn, you actually knew what I was gonna
I
say.
know the
Okay,
story.
tell him the story.
So, in the story, there's a farmer who has a horse. Now, one day, this horse runs away. And now all the villagers in the town, they come and they're like, oh my God, this is so sad. This is horrible. How could this happen? I can't believe you lost your horse. I feel so bad for you. And he says, maybe. Then the next day, the horse comes back with 3 wild horses. Now all the villagers run back to this man's house and they say, oh my God, you got 3 free horses. What good luck you must have. And he says, maybe. The next day, the farmer's son tries to tame one of the wild horses. But the wild horse kicks him off the back and the son breaks his arm. Now all the villagers rush to his house and they say, oh my God, that stupid horse. This is such bad luck. The farmer says, maybe. The last day, the military comes to the farmer's house and they say, we're looking for young men to draft to go to the war. They take one good look at the farmer's son, sees his broken arm, and they say, oh, there's no way we can draft this man. He has a broken arm. Then all the villagers rush over to his house and they say, man, all of our sons got drafted. You're so lucky. You have such good luck. The farmer says, maybe. The moral of that story is that there is no such thing as good or bad, because it's all based on what happens next, and you never know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
Right?
And often what happens next is a product of what you believe, what you
Exactly.
think in your mind. Because if something happens, for example, going back to the story of the farmer, right? With the horse, if immediately he started breaking down, freaking out, oh my God, my horse is gone. I have no money. It's over. My life is over. And he starts having a mental breakdown. First of all, he would have been panicking for no reason, because the next day the horse would come back with more horses too. Then he'd be overjoyed and his mood would be swinging from left to right as these good and bad things happen, you know? They're not good or bad. It's simply what you think
Believe.
about them and also what comes next, like you said, and you never know what comes next.
But that's actually an interesting thing to think about. Is if you take, for example, like this idea that the farmer has of living his life of not really feeling too much emotion based on what's happening, right? And you pit that against somebody that does feel emotion, like for example, they swing back and forth between like tragedy and the good things that happen. Which way is a better way to live your life?
That's a difficult question to answer, but
Right.
I think, in my personal opinion, that it makes the most sense to live your life in a stoic manner. You shouldn't, and I don't mean stoic in the way of, oh, I stubbed my toe. Doesn't hurt because I'm stoic. No, I mean, you shouldn't let your emotions control everyday actions.
You know what's interesting is that I did see a thing where somebody said stoicism doesn't mean having no emotions, right? So I think it's about controlling your emotions.
Very
That's
true.
what I think that most people have this misunderstanding. Like, especially I'd say the stigma is around men. Like, oh, don't show your emotions. It's not necessary. Like, people take that as don't have emotions, which is very different, right? Because it's very important to have emotions, but you need to know how to control them, right? Because what happens when you get people in general, maybe men more on average, that don't control their emotions is you get horrible people, right?
Very true.
If you don't control your emotions, then what happens, right? You get people that do horrible things, right? And then those people are the reason that everybody thinks that all men are bad. right, is because of the few people that don't control their emotions, right?
Think about a bar fight. It's something so stupid and in in unimportant, right? It's one guy insults you when he's clearly not in his right mind, and because you're not in your right mind either, because you're tipsy off the henny, you think, oh, it's a great time. Let me just shatter this guy's jaw. It's a great idea. Number
Right.
one, you shouldn't make decisions like that when you're off alcohol. But again,
Well,
that's
to
the
be
reason
fair,
why.
when you're on alcohol, I don't think it's that easy to make a decision. You're probably just naturally was gonna do something. I feel like step one here is don't drink alcohol. Or
Don't drink
get
too much,
alcohol.
alcohol. There you go.
But again, that's your prerogative. You can do whatever you'd like if you want to.
That's true.
We wouldn't recommend it, but this
Yeah,
PSA warning: don't drink too much alcohol. All right.
Okay.
Alcohol bad.
Yeah, that's gonna stop them. Don't worry,
Yeah.
pal. You really got him there. But at the end of the day, if you were able to control your emotions, first of all, I would assume that you wouldn't get drunk in the first place if you could control yourself. Having good self-control is key, not just about your emotions, but
Yeah.
about everything in general, right? So if you could control your emotions, you wouldn't drink that much in the first place. But even after that point, once you make that decision to get mad about something, it's too late now. You already started a fight. And then the repercussions after that, you're going to think it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Unless the guy said something absurd,
Yeah.
like really, really far out there, something racist or like about your woman.
Or your mom.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, that's a big
Or your
one.
dad.
Ain't nobody disrespecting my family, I'll tell you that.
Family, yeah.
That's true. Still, I would
No, that's
say
the thing, though.
don't.
That's what's interesting to me is like if somebody like says something at me, it doesn't bother me that much. But if they say something about somebody else that like I care about, that bothers me more for some reason. It's interesting.
I wonder if that's a selfless thing or if it's just that you don't think it's worth fighting when it involves you. But that brings up an interesting point.
Well, it does depend what the person says about me, but
That's
yeah.
true. That is
on
true.
average, I'd say I don't get so mad when somebody says something. Like, for example, if I'm working drive-through and somebody says something like, I don't know, says something like mean to me, like you suck. Okay, that wasn't a good example of what somebody would say to me. But suppose that they say that, I wouldn't take it to heart. But if somebody said that to one of my coworkers, I'd be like, man, I hate that guy. That guy's such a loser, right? But I wouldn't care if they said it to me. And it's not so much I don't care about myself as much. It's just when something's happening to me, it's so much easier to gauge how I feel, right? So like I really don't care when people say something to me because why would I, right? Why would I taint my own day because somebody else said something, right? It's interesting. I think it's like if you had $86,400.
I was about to say that. Damn.
Right? And
Damn.
somebody stole $10, would you cry about it and waste the rest of it? No.
Oh.
Right? You get that many seconds in a day. Why would you let
10 seconds of bad,
ruin
bad
it,
interaction
the whole day.
ruin the rest of the day?
Doesn't make any sense.
But another thing is when it comes to yourself, I think the reason why it's much easier to not say anything is because if somebody makes fun of you for something, at the end of the day, it's you. You know who you are. People who don't know who they are and have no sense of confidence, those are the people who easily get offended by things that other people say. For example, if you ran up to me on the street and said, look at you and your ugly teeth and your ugly blue hair. My hair is obviously not blue, right? So why would I take offense to your insult if I know it's not true? So if somebody came up to me and said, oh man, you're such a weak individual, you have no sense of self-confidence, you'll never make it in this world. Would I get upset about that? No, because at the end of the day, I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and I know what I'm going to do with my life.
Exactly.
I don't need to get offended because I have a very strong sense of who I am. But to the people who don't, that's rule number one. Build up your self-confidence and build a sense of who you are because then you become bulletproof. Well, not literally bulletproof, but emotionally bulletproof. That's a good one. I like that.
Because like that way no one can really hurt you. Once you build up who you are, you know you are, right? Like, do you think the top people in this world, like the people that are succeeding, and I think we'll be talking about success a lot on this podcast.
A lot, yeah.
But success is not defined by money. That is like a misconception, right? I think that financial success is very important in your life, but you need to be successful as who you are, right? Like, for example, if riches is not something you strive for, then why the hell would you chase it, right? If you, like, if you're not struggling and you're enjoying your life, you're doing what you love, then that's fine. I think that a lot of people take out of context what people say nowadays. Like all these big millionaire, billionaires saying, oh, you need to get super rich, like quit your 9 to 5, start a business. Not everybody needs to do that. Like some people enjoy working a 9 to 5. That's just part of their life, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy working a job, that is good because guess what? For some reason, so many people don't understand is that if everyone was an entrepreneur, we wouldn't have a functioning society.
Exactly.
Right? That's like we need to rely on each other, right? And all these people working 9 to 5s do so much more for this world than we think, right?
Very
They're
true.
very key parts in this. Well, what would you say? In this machine that we call society.
I was
right?
about to call it that. Damn, like that was
Yeah.
word for word what I was gonna say. That's crazy.
Everybody is a cog or a wheel or a conveyor belt or something.
Yeah.
All working together, right? So if everyone was one part, that you wouldn't have a functioning machine.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a chessboard, right? You need to have pawns, kings, queens, knights, bishops, and rooks.
Not
right?
everyone can be a king.
Not everyone can be a king. Not everyone can be a pawn. Not everybody can be a queen or whatever, right? You need to have diversity there.
Yeah, you
right?
need to have people who play each role because without it,
Exactly.
you have an incomplete machine.
Exactly.
And the truth is, each person plays a different role, right? You have the entrepreneur. He reaps the most reward, but bears the most risk. Because if a company goes down, there's always that. Have you ever seen that Ben Shapiro situation with the whole pencil company and whatnot?
Yeah.
When he says, oh, the guy goes up to Ben Shapiro and says, you know what? It's unfair that the guy who makes the pencils for in your factory, he puts together all the supplies and builds the pencils that you sell. So then why are you getting paid so much for his labor? Well, the truth is, if the company fails, the business owner fails.
Exactly.
Right? Especially if it's a sole proprietorship in Canada, which means that the business is you. It's completely tied to your own equity and net worth.
Because what happens when you go down? They're carrying so much debt probably from the facility that they're using, all the machinery they buy. So
Exactly. And
and
you
then
have to pay it
paying
off.
all
Yeah.
the employees on top of that, right? Like
And you have to pay off all your like let's say the company goes bankrupt, right? You need to pay off any debts from the company before you can even get rid of it. And that money usually comes from the business owner's pockets, right?
Exactly.
Unless it's a huge corporation, that's a different story.
Yeah, so if you fail, if the business owner fails,
He loses everything.
Yeah, but the workers, you lose a job, you can get another job with no risk, right? Once you
Yeah.
lose your job, you don't have to pay anything out.
Well, once again,
Right.
it quote unquote sucks that you lost your job, but
Yeah.
hey, you can go in and get another one.
Right.
But once again, you can look at it as an opportunity to start somewhere new, get
Mm.
a fresh perspective on life.
Yeah. But that's important reality is to find the best in every scenario, you know?
Yeah.
Life is
Very
not
true.
always going to like fall in your favor, but I feel you can it's not delusion, but you can make it seem as if it's in your favor.
That's an interesting way of putting it because if you really think about it, you can delude yourself into believing something and it'll be true.
Mm.
Because that's exactly what people say when they're talking about being successful and being the top dog, right? You need to already believe you're number one. You're meant to win. You're the best to ever do it. You've seen that clip of Mike Tyson. I'm the best ever. I'm the most ruthless, the most vicious man to ever step foot in this ring. Seen that clip?
No.
And wow, that
I
is
have not seen
crazy.
that.
That is crazy that you've never seen
No.
that. Wow. But if Mike Tyson didn't think like that, he wouldn't be number one. You need to believe it in the depths of your soul that you are already the best to ever do it. And only then will you be able to truly be number one in the eyes of the public. If you're not
I
number
would
one in
say
your own eyes, you
That
can't be number one in
I
theirs.
agree. However, don't take it too far and take it to arrogance,
Mm,
right? It's important to be confident but not arrogant.
yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Because if you believe that you're the best and you're number one, then like you're gonna probably delude yourself into thinking that you can't get better. So the thing is, I feel like it's important to be like, hey, self-reflect, right? Where can I get better?
Yeah.
Right? Still believing that, because the thing is, what you need to understand is there is no end goal, right? Everyone believes
life
that
doesn't
there's
end.
that final perfect,
Destination.
yeah, or like a perfect place, a utopia, if you will, right? But you can't. That place will keep running from you if you keep on chasing it, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is to find a utopia wherever you are right now, and
Yeah.
also we are basically just referring to the Travis Scott album.
I was
right?
about to say that because when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, that was one of the things that came up in my head, which is crazy because I didn't tell you that.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know.
tell you what I was going to talk about
Yeah.
today, and you brought it up anyways, which shows how much of a masterpiece this album is. Just before I get into it, there's a difference. There's a big difference between music and a masterpiece, okay? I believe that all music is art, but not all art goes in a museum. Utopia, that is a masterpiece, work of art that belongs in a museum. Now, I know a lot of people will say, man, the music wasn't even that good. Why are you getting so excited and worked up about it? But personally, I think that music with meaning is much more valuable than music that sounds good. Best example, Kanye West. First of all, his music sounds good too. Okay, I went back and I listened to all of his old albums, and I think this is truly a work of art, right? Genuinely, I've never been more impressed with albums than Kanye West albums. Best one, College Dropout. I listened to every single song on that album and thought, man, this is truly amazing, right? His lyricism, his meaning, everything. But going back to Utopia, it's one of those things where the meaning behind it is much more important than what you hear. You should take a step further. For example, the marketing leading up to Utopia. What did he do? He went around on billboards and posted, can you find it in a liquor store? Can you find it in a casino? All these things are saying, can you find a utopia in having a lot of money? Can you find a utopia in having all the alcohol you could have wanted or all the girls you could have wanted? And the true answer is, it's up to you.
Exactly.
Utopia is subjective. Happiness is subjective. Your perfect place is not the same as my perfect place or his
Exactly.
perfect place.
That's what, like, circling back to the whole entrepreneur thing, right? Is some people's utopia is driving the nicest car, having the nicest house.
Yep.
Other people's utopia is chilling at home with my family. You know, in my comfy 1-bedroom apartment. Sure. Like, maybe that's just what you want, bro. But that's the thing, is find your utopia.
Yeah, ask yourself, is it worth the sacrifice? Is it
Exactly.
worth me to work 40, 50, 60 hours as an entrepreneur to even get my business off the ground? Is it worth doing all that? Or is it worth spending the time at home with my kids with a well-paying job
Right.
that I just have to go into every day?
So I'd say the thing is, that's the thing, is that you find what it, but the thing is, don't sell yourself short. If you know you could have done more, then you haven't found your utopia. Because you, instead of thinking of, in the mindset of, I want to get this goal, you're just living your life stagnant.
What can I get?
Yeah.
Not what I want.
Exactly. It should be, you should figure out what you want and then find that, right? Because the thing is, if you spend your whole life stagnant and you don't do anything, are you really happy, right? If you never had a chase,
Yeah.
then is it really worth it? I'd say it's fine to live a 9-to-5 job. It's fine to live that kind of life. But if you're miserable doing it, what was the point, right?
Yeah, that's very true. The truth is, you should chase what makes you happy, but don't settle for something that isn't your goal just because you don't want to put in the effort to get to that next level.
You know, it's something that Steve Harvey said, I think, on his show. He said, you should find something that you would do for free and do that for your job, right? And, okay, of course, certain things aren't going to pay enough to, like, sustain a whole life, right? But find a passion. That's my thing, is that most kids nowadays are so overstimulated with so many different things that it's really hard for them to find their,
one
like,
thing,
what they
yeah.
want to do, right? So when I talk to people about, you know, because I have to apply for university, right? And all these people are like, man, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. And we got a month maybe until you have to apply. And you don't have the time, right? And the truth is, because that's how noisy the world is, all the different stuff being thrown around, where do I go? What do I do, right? It's so hard to find what you want to do, where your utopia is, right? So I think that what's so important is to take the time to figure that out, because that's step number one. If you can't see the destination, there's no pathway for you to walk on.
Exactly.
Right?
Rule number one is, when you're deciding what you want to do in life, you don't say, I'm going to walk and figure out where I'll go after. For example, if I wanted to hike Mount Garibaldi, massive hike, am I going to say, oh, I'll just park somewhere and walk and hope I find the peak? No, I find a trail that I know will get me to. First, I decide which peak I want to reach. There are multiple peaks. Where do I want to go? First, I pick that. Then I think, okay, which trail will get me there the
And then-
quickest,
Yeah.
right? Or the best trail to take, whatever that may be. Because once again, it's personal. It's a utopia of your own. What trail you
Exactly.
want to take? Maybe it hits certain checkpoints that you want to see that maybe your friends don't want to see. That's up to you. Making that choice, that's up to you. But make sure you decide on a peak, a trail, and then the starting point.
Because I'm just saying, if you wander aimlessly through a forest, you're never gonna get anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
You won't
So-
make it to the top.
It's not. That's the most important thing is find the goal first.
Exactly. And going back to your whole topic about noise, the truth is the world is a noisy place. There's always so much stuff going on around you and outside of your life that it's easy to forget about what you need to be focusing on. But the truth is, the real reason why most people don't know what they want to do in university, in life, with a job, with a business, is because they're too focused on the noise. Maybe you should sit down, cut out all the noise, turn off the Instagram, get off whatever social media you're on, and just listen to yourself and think, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Because if throughout of all of high school we talked more about what we wanted to do after instead of what we're doing right now, we would have planned out our trail to the peak.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't even think about the peak. We didn't think about what you want to be in the end. That's the fatal flaw with school, is that it doesn't, I don't blame them because I don't really know how you would incorporate this into the school system in the first place.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you don't think about what you want to do. All they do is they say, take your pick at these subjects and figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
But that's not what you want to do. You want to figure out where you want to be, then decide what courses you should take. Not take the courses and figure out what you like.
Yeah.
You should have a goal in mind. And you should be able to cut out the noise to figure that out. Especially in today's world of overstimulation, stimulation, it's difficult to cut it out. But you need to, because there's no other way for you to focus on your goal and get after it. We would have never started this if we didn't think, man, what do I want to do with my life? What is our peak? What is my utopia? Where do I want to go? Because without thinking about those things, we would have been aimlessly wandering, especially throughout university and finding a job after that. Where do I want to be? I still wouldn't know. But after sitting down and thinking about it that way, in the sense of finding where I want to go first, the pathway to get there, and then the starting point, that's what made me realize this is exactly what I want to do now. And sharing that with other people is the biggest thing, you know?
I'm just saying, gotta have a vision in mind. That's the most important thing, right? Because if there's no vision, you're literally not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So sit down, take the time, and reflect and figure out what is it that I want from life. Because if you think about it, you will always find an answer to that question. Because if you sit down and you think, what do I want that I don't have? Right? You will find there's something. Because there is not a person on this planet that has everything that they want.
Every single thing, yeah.
Every person has something they want. And people will tell themselves that there isn't anything they want, which is a way to live their life, right? Like a lot of people live without the longing for more, right? Which I think is a great way to live your life. Like, for example, that is one of the cornerstones of Buddhism, right? Which is the religion we both grew up on, right? Is that you don't need to have worldly attachments, right? You don't need to want more, right? You should be happy with what you have. And I think that gratitude is a very important thing, right? But having said that, there's still wants, desires, needs that you want to desperately chase after.
Yeah.
Right? So if you focus in on those and you think, okay, this is what I want, how do I get there? It's that simple. If you want to drive a Ferrari, how much does that cost? I don't know. Let's say $500,000. How am I gonna make $500,000? You break that down, right? You work backwards. That's the thing. Everybody tries to work
Upward,
forwards,
yeah.
right? But it's really, really hard.
You have to do it the other
Right?
way around.
Yeah, you need to go start at your end point and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, breaking it down is much easier than trying to build it up towards it. You know?
Exactly.
It's much more difficult to do that. But at the end of the day, again, chase what makes you happy. Don't chase somebody else's dreams. That's actually something that Kanye West said in
Yeah.
his album. He said, you think I'm going to sit here and chase what y'all want me to chase? When I have my own dreams, I'm going to go and get my own money.
That's the one thing is, no matter what you do, don't get caught up trying to live somebody else's life, right? Because that is one thing that will ruin it for you, because you may go the distance, but you'll realize that this isn't the life that I wanted.
Exactly.
Right?
So many people go through university like the first 3 years and say, man, I don't even like studying this. Why am I here? And they'll switch their whole program after doing that. Don't get me wrong. it's much better to change to something you like than to sit there and live the rest of your life unhappy. Because at the end of the day, what is the point of life? To live your life in a happy way. You need to be happy with what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? So don't go and do something you don't want to do. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have saved those 3 years by simply sitting down, self-reflecting, and thinking, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? How much money do I want to make? And honestly, I thought you were going to bring it up, but that clip of Jordan Peterson, where he's talking about if you want to find the solution to all of your problems, sit down for 30 minutes and ask yourself what's wrong with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you'll see exactly where things are going wrong, where I can fix things, and what I need to do from this point onward to get better.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the important thing, man. You gotta focus on where you want to go.
Yeah. And be conscious about how you think. Because at the end of the day, how you think is very powerful.
Yeah.
Like we said, happiness is subjective, but it's subjective to how you think.
Exactly.
Biggest example? Last night, funny enough, which is absolutely insane. So pretty much the story goes like this. We decided to go to a Lil Yachty concert here in Vancouver. We drove all the way there, took an hour to get there, paid $15 for parking, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, I think it's a fair amount for parking.
Not that much.
It's not terrible, but
Really
either way, parked the car, me, this guy over here, and 2 other friends. We walk into the arena. Everything's fine. We sit down in our seats. And then we had to sit through the openers. Everyone who's been to a concert knows openers might hit, openers might miss, is what it is, you know? For us, the openers definitely didn't hit, but
I wouldn't say that. I'd say the first 3 openers were really good, and then
okay, no,
the first, third, and fourth were really good.
Yeah,
Second and fifth, not so much, but
that's okay. It
They
is
just
what
didn't
it
hit
is,
as
right?
well,
We
yeah.
didn't go there for the openers. We went there for Lil Yachty at the end of
Yeah.
the day, right? So we're sitting in our seats. Everything's chill, and finally Yachty comes out, and this guy does 2 or 3 mellow songs first because that's his new style of music, and after that he finally gets to his hype music, and we're sitting in seats because this is a hockey arena, and there's a mosh pit on the floor. And the mosh pit is only half full because the tickets were really expensive for the mosh pit. I don't really know why they were close to $250 or $300, but our seats were only $65. Plus, not everybody wants to listen to Lil Yachty like that and jump up and down for 3 hours straight, right? So it makes sense. But the mosh pit is only half full, and Lil Yachty goes, everybody fill up the mosh pit. And everybody in the seats is just looking at each other wondering, what is this guy saying? Is he serious right now that we're about to jump in there out of our seats? People start running down. So it's literally like a clip from a zombie movie where like bodies just rushing, right? Everybody fills up the mosh pit, and we're like, okay, are we going to do this too? Sure, why not? So we jump an 8-foot drop off the edge of like the boards of a hockey arena.
well,
It's not really the boards, it's higher up
like
on the
way
boards. It's
higher
it's
up,
the seated area of a hockey arena. We jump down the wall. We run in, we mosh for 50 seconds. Then what? Yachty gets pulled off stage, gets his show canceled because he was recklessly behaving and nobody wanted to go back to their seats after that. So now it's a safety concern because there's so many people on the floor.
Yeah.
So we paid $65, jumped a wall and moshed for 50 seconds, and then got canceled and kicked out.
Yeah.
So first reaction is obviously, man, everything sucks. The concert's canceled. And this isn't even the first time this has happened to us. This is the second time, by the way. The second time we got scammed by a concert. First one was Breakout when Lil Baby didn't show up and Lil Uzi didn't show up. But luckily they had Trippie Redd to cover Lil Uzi on the first day. But the second day when Lil Baby didn't show up, that was a travesty because they didn't even have anyone to cover him.
Yeah, and they kept everybody waiting in the mosh pit for like 30 to 45 minutes.
The
and then-
DJ literally was like, yo, I need y'all to get super hype. I see Lil Baby right there backstage. Everyone get hype. He's about to come out. I need y'all to bring the energy. So everyone starts moshing and going crazy to Mo Bamba and all the songs he's playing. And then an hour later, Lil Baby doesn't even show up.
Yeah.
And that led to an even worse situation, which we'll talk about on a future episode because I don't really think it fits in here. But
Yeah.
Lil Yachty gets canceled. We walk out of the stadium. At first, I was definitely thinking, why is it always me where the concert gets canceled? First Breakout, now Lil Yachty. It's terrible. This is a travesty. But we walk out and we're thinking, man, we just jumped an 8-foot drop, which we normally wouldn't do, but the adrenaline was pumping. Everyone was getting hype. So we decided, you know what? Let's do it. Let's jump. We jumped, ran in, and moshed for a solid minute, and I was happy about that. We walked out thinking, you know what? We did something cool. And we enjoyed the rest of the day. Well, night, I guess. We spent the hour drive back home and sat down, and the 4 of us had McDonald's at 12. We just sat there, we enjoyed what we could, and we went home. And that's the thing. You just got to find happiness in what you can. Because imagine if we had the mentality of, Yachty got canceled. This is the worst. I hate everything. Oh my God, I'm going to go home upset. We would have slept unhappy and we would have had a bad day. But at the end of it, I can say I had a good day and a good night because I thought about it as a win. I got to jump in there and do something cool, right? Just got to look at the positives, man.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Like, that's the thing about life. It's all about the outlook, right? What do you see? Because if you see negativity everywhere you go, that's what's going to be, like, recepted in your brain, right?
Mhm.
But if you look around and you see the good, man, like, for example, if I'm working drive-through, right, and I'm talking to a guy, maybe we have a good interaction, and then another car comes by and I have a bad interaction, which interaction should I really be thinking about? The good one, right? Obviously. Why would you focus on your bad memories, right? Why would you focus on the bad experiences in your life, the bad moments? Instead, take a look at the positives. Like for us, would we really look at, God damn it, Yachty got canceled? Or would we look at, dude, we got a mosh for $60?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Even if it was for 60 seconds, I'll take it.
Right? It's about an experience. And that's the most important thing, is being able to find happiness wherever you go, right? Because if you can't do that, you're going to live a very sad and unfulfilled life.
Exactly. Because even if you win the lottery, you might be happy for a while. Of course, people are going to say, yeah, if I won the lottery, it would be over. I'd be happy for the rest of my life. First of all, 99% of people who win the lottery go bankrupt within the next few years because they don't know how to manage their money. And second of all, if you can't be happy with what you have now, you can't be happy with what you'll have in the future. It's a big mindset thing more than it is what you have.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because if you really break it down, what you think is what you'll have for the rest of your life. You can change the way you think. Of course you can. That's the whole reason why we started this podcast, is to help you guys change the way you think. If you're in a spot where you think everything sucks and you just can't go on living, well, the truth is you got to fix that, because as always, there's somebody who has it worse off. So you need to be grateful for what you have and then simply work your way up to what you want.
That's the interesting thing about the social media age, is that not only do you see some of the people with the best lives, but you see some of the people with the worst. Like, think about the people in, like, Israel, Palestine, right, with that conflict, or, like, Russia, Ukraine, that conflict, right? Like, they're living in horrible conditions, right?
Well, most of them aren't even living anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Of the tragedy, right?
Right? The thing that's so interesting to me is that people in Western society will see that and go, oh, this is so horrible, we need to help them. And, like, I would completely agree, but then they turn around and aren't happy with the fact that they get to live this life.
Exactly.
Right?
You have a roof over your head, food on the table, running clean water. Your family hopefully is alive.
Yeah.
Or at least much more of a bigger proportion than the people over there.
Yeah.
And yet you turn around and complain about the smallest things.
Exactly. You don't have the fear of getting blown up every second of your day, right?
I watched an interview on YouTube and it was terrible, because the guy went in and I don't remember exactly who he was interviewing. I think it was whatever, it doesn't matter. But it was involving the Israel-Palestine conflict, and he was interviewing them. And first of all, he talked to this young girl. Well, maybe not young. She's like 18, 19, okay? She has a younger brother who's 13, and he's in the hospital because his, like, arm is broken or something like that. And the kid watched his parents get killed right in front of him, first of all. And then after that, as they're doing the interview with the girl, she's crying and it's terrible. They hear the siren go off for a nuclear attack. So, or like a bombs being dropped on them. So they had to evacuate the scene in the middle of an interview because they're getting blown up. How ridiculous is that, dude? Yeah. And yet we sit here and complain about, man, they made my Big Mac wrong. Dude, your family is alive and you're breathing. You're alive. What more is there that you could possibly ask for? Yeah, you might not have everything, but you can have everything if you try. If you think, I want to get here, find a way to get there. And at the end of the day, you have it much better off than a lot of people nowadays, because there are people who suffer so much more than you every day. And yet, what do? You still complain about the smallest things. Yeah. Complaining is the enemy to happiness. That is probably, if I had one thing that I want you to take away from this episode, it would be that complaining is the enemy of happiness. Because at the end of the day, if you have something to be grateful for, you will always be happy. Yeah. I have people around me that I'm grateful for. I have material objects that I love that I'm grateful for having. There are people out there who don't have those. And that is enough to tell me I have something worth being happy for.
Exactly. That's the thing is you should be happy with where you are, but excited to go and get more, right? Because the thing is, people will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm happy where I am, so I'm not gonna move." But there is more that you could get. But the key is to be happy along the way, right? If you spend your whole life thinking I'll be happy when I get there,
You'll never be happy.
exactly. It's a story about a man named Jay. Okay, now his name is spelled interesting. It's Jae.
Okay.
That's how you spell J. Okay,
Okay.
and he's in elementary school.
Okay.
Now Jay says, when I get into high school, or no, he's graduating elementary school. He says, don't worry, guys. When I graduate high school, I'm gonna be happy. Okay. So
Okay.
now Jay goes through high school, and once he gets to grade 12, he's graduating. He's like, don't worry, guys. When I get my bachelor's degree, I'll be happy. And he goes through and gets his bachelor's degree. He's like, guys, when I get my master's degree, then I'll be happy. Gets his master's degree. Then he says, when I get my first high-paying job, then I'll be happy. And then he gets his first high-paying job, and he says, don't worry, guys. When I get a wife, then I'll be happy. And all throughout this time, he still says, then I'll be happy. Not I am happy. Then I'll be happy, right? Then he says, no, when I get kids, then I'll be happy. He has kids, and he's still not happy. And he finally says, when my kids grow up and move out, then I'll be happy. So his kids grow up, and he's still not happy. And then finally he says, when my kids get a good job, then I'll be happy. Now, by the time that his kids got a good job, Jay had passed away. And he lived his whole life never being happy. Now, Jay is actually an acronym for just about everybody. Jae. That's why his name is spelled like that.
Damn.
Now, the problem is so many people nowadays live on that basis of then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Once I get 1 million, I'll be happy. Once I get 1 billion, I'll be happy. Why aren't you happy right now, man? You've been given a gift, a huge gift, a gift that nobody else is ever going to get. Your life is something that no one else will ever experience, right?
Yeah.
No one will ever get to see the world through your eyes. So hold on to that and be grateful for the one-of-a-kind life that you
It's
have.
a miracle. It's genuinely
Exactly.
a miracle. The miracle of life. They call it
Yeah.
that for a reason because you could have turned out many other ways. First of all, you got to talk about the probability of the two specific cells that created you in the first place finding each other.
Yeah.
1. 2, any genetic deformations or differences in your body that could have happened, but you turned out exactly how you should be or how it was
Exactly.
meant to be. So now you get to live your life this way. And 3, just like you said, nobody will ever experience life the way you did.
Yeah.
People always say, man, all these rappers and billionaires and millionaires out there, their lives are like movies and mine is boring. Well, the truth is your life is a movie too. It's just you haven't gotten
Exactly.
to the best part about it yet.
Exactly. We're just still on the build-up, you know?
Exactly. There's
Like-
always the introduction, and then you haven't reached the climax just yet before
Yeah.
you hit the receding action.
It's
You
just
know?
everybody's got a different movie of life, right?
Exactly.
A different tale. And to cut your story short because you think that it's already over is not fair. right?
Exactly.
You got a whole life ahead of you to live.
I had such a good point to make, and now I forgot. Just because on the topic of movies and life, I thought about a masterpiece movie. You know which movie I'm talking about?
Life of Pi.
Damn, you
Song,
actually got it.
that
No,
right?
I swear
Dude,
that was the movie.
I
was
put on
thinking about.
Everything I Love. I am not lying. I put on Everything I Love. I was thinking of it too as I said
Dude,
that.
oh
Like,
my
I put
God,
on
that's
everything. I'm not even
crazy.
joking.
That's crazy.
And
What
again,
the hell?
I'm gonna say this just like right now. These are not scripted. In
I don't
any
even
way,
think
shape, or
about
form.
what I don't even think about what
Right.
we're gonna talk about until like 5 minutes before.
Yeah,
Then
like
I'm like,
literally,
okay, we got
when
it.
we were about to record this guy's just sitting there on his phone, like typing out, "Hey, what are we gonna talk about?" And and we're just like, we'll figure it out as we go.
But the
right?
reason why, well, I wouldn't say that because I did plan out.
Yeah,
like I had an
Well, I'm
overarching
in the
topic.
dark. Like I don't really know.
But that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
you know. And
exactly.
at the end of the day, we don't do this for the money or the fame or anything. I do this
Yeah.
because it's fun. I love
Exactly.
talking. I love helping people. So I hope that somebody out there finds this entertaining and more importantly takes value out of it. Right. So my biggest way of deciding on what I'm going to talk about today is what will give people value, what will
Yeah.
help people in their day-to-day lives. Because at the end of the day, if I could sit here and have one person come in through that door right there and tell me, man, these are my problems, how would you help me? Again, that's the job of a therapist. Actually, no, I wouldn't call it a therapist because I think therapists are scams. But, okay, maybe not scams. Maybe that's a little
Yeah.
far. But I don't think that therapists can solve your problems. But if you came in here, I would give you a blunt truth about your life if you told me your problems,
I
and
think
I
the
would help you.
best, if you can solve your problems on your own, you'll create a far more permanent solution to those problems. And also,
Yeah.
you're setting yourself up for success because, again, it's like you could give a man a fish or you could teach a man how to fish, right? So
Good one.
if you go to therapy, like, and again, this is not gonna be like, oh, don't go to therapy, right? Because like if that's what you need to do,
Yeah,
that's
some
what you
people
need to
need
do,
it for sure.
right? That's just the way that life goes, right? But I'd say for us, is we've learned this is how we can deal with our issues, our problems, right? And that's the best way to process it, right? Because if you can teach yourself how to deal with the issues of your life, then you're not gonna run into as many problems because you'll know how to overcome those barriers.
Absolutely. And think about it. In my personal opinion, medicine and therapy sometimes is more so of a mask for the problem than a solution for the problem. That's what. Have you ever seen that interview of Tom Cruise? Yeah, Tom Cruise. And he's talking about drugs that are supposed to help you, like Adderall and
Oh
Ritalin.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're
And
talking
he was way ahead of his time, and he said, "Do you know what these drugs do? They don't help you. They simply mask the problem, and you're being scammed into believing that they fix it when in reality you're just making it worse."
Now again, just to be clear, we're not like scientists or like drug professionals. That
Do I
okay,
do I need to say that? Obviously,
well, just to be clear, so like when we quote things, it's not like a set in stone.
okay. First of all, I'm quoting Tom Cruise. This guy is not a professional either, but maybe he knows
yeah.
things we don't.
But
But
like,
I agree
yeah.
with him personally.
And also like you can comment down like, oh, like this is actually what it is, or give us your opinions on
Yeah,
stuff.
if you
just-
know something that we are clearly messing up, be sure to leave it in the comments
Yeah,
below
so we
because
know.
we are not closed-minded people. If you have something to say and we clearly don't know as much as you, drop it in the comments, man. I love reading and I love listening to what other people have to say. So I would love to see your guys' opinion on it and think about, what can I learn? Where can I get more insight on this topic? Because maybe what I'm saying is inaccurate.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing. I don't want to spread misinformation. So you're right.
Exactly.
Let's slap a little warning label
Little
on that.
disclaimer right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tom Cruise said that these drugs, they're not good for you and they don't help you. They simply mask the problem instead of solving it. And at the time, apparently he got a lot of backlash for it because nobody really believed him. This guy's just an actor, right?
Yeah.
He's not really helping and he's just saying these things. But now if you look at the general population taking antidepressants, maybe it works for you. Some people it works for sure, right? It works for you somehow. But for I'd say for the general population, most people on antidepressants aren't happy. Maybe it's a vitamin deficiency that truly you might be suffering from. Have you ever seen that clip? Well, no, I guarantee you haven't. But I saw a video the other day, and it was talking about somebody who had severe anxiety. And he said, I saw somewhere that if you start taking vitamin D and magnesium, it can help your anxiety a lot. And he's a dad. This guy has gone through his whole life with severe anxiety problems. And then he starts taking magnesium and vitamin D. Boom, turns out he just had a vitamin deficiency, and that's why he couldn't have that self-confidence or that ability to process things. He just got very anxious and just froze up in moments. And he said that it fixed his problems. And a girl apparently made a video countering that and trying it as well. She said it fixed her problems too. The truth is, find what works for you, right? You don't have to follow somebody else's solution, but at least find something that will help you with your problems.
That's like the thing is because if a doctor prescribed the exact same medicine to every single one of his patients, the results will be tragic.
Exactly.
Now, that is a line directly from Prince A video.
Really?
Yeah, from his I Sued the School System video. That's one of the things.
That's an OG video. I remember watching that.
But it's true because if everyone dealt with their problems the same way, it wouldn't make sense, right? Because every brain is different, I believe, right? There are no two brains that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even on identical twins, I think it's different brains. Well, I think that's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody thinks differently. So with problems, and actually I'd say to go a step beyond that, because I think all these mental problems are like also problems with the mind, right? The mind and consciousness are not a part of your body, right? Like I think that there's like your brain.
Your mind is not your brain.
Yeah, so
That's
your brain is like, your motor functions, your blood, all this stuff that's going on within your physical body is like your brain. But the mind is something else.
Yeah.
Like it's like a
separate entity.
Fugazi, right? It's not real. It's not material, right? It's like a stock, right? It's not technically
Quoting
real.
the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just the truth, right? Is that it's not a real thing. So you can make it what you want it to be. I don't know what these hand gestures I'm doing. Sorry. To those of you listening to this and not seeing it, I'm doing some. Okay.
He's
this
waffling.
hard,
He's
yeah.
waffling.
But your mind is not something that is set in stone, right?
Yeah, that's
You can
true.
always change it. So I think step number one is also, since everybody's mind is different, is to take the time to figure out how you can change your mind to benefit your beliefs, right?
Yeah, that's very true. As always, you got to live your own life and do what makes you happy. you know?
Exactly.
But I would say, for example, with this, even with this, I would say most people probably wouldn't say start a podcast because, man, there's so many people out there doing podcasts. What makes you think you can even do better than them? Well, at the end of the day, my goal isn't to do better than them.
Exactly.
My goal is to help people, right?
Yeah.
And like I was saying
Something out
earlier, if I took all of our eventual subscribers and put them in a line out that door, one by one, each of them came in here. If I could help them somehow, that would make me happy. I would spend a whole day just talking to people, trying to help them because that's what makes me happy. But this is just the best way to reach the most people,
Yeah.
right? If I get my voice out there, if I get our message out there, at the end of the day, we can help people. And that's what matters the most to me.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me happy. So that's why I'm looking forward to doing this for a long time, hopefully. And we're definitely going to keep up the positivity.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's up to you, man. Life is up to you. You're the only person who can change the situation you're in. But you're also the only person who could make it worse.
Yeah.
So it's just about asking yourself, what do I want to do and how am I going to make it better? That's all it is. That's all life is. It's just a big game of that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's about taking the situation and making the best out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've really dedicated that this episode to that. Is just been talking about, man, you really gotta find the light in everything.
Exactly.
Now, again, that's such a cliche though, is find the silver lining in everything. There's a brighter side to everything. Of course, there are certain situations that, man, it sucks, right? Like losing somebody that you love. Right?
Yeah.
That is a horrible thing. There is no bright side to that. But the one thing is, it's actually something we've heard from, I think most people have heard from South Park, but it's I'm able to feel sadness because what I had was so good, right? And you take like the Dr. Seuss quote of don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, right?
That's crazy that they put these deep meanings into literal, well, I wouldn't say South Park is a kids show, but in a show all about jokes and stuff like that, South Park had some deep meanings in it for sure.
And I think it's such a good quote because it's actually something that you told me is about an EKG machine, right? Like measuring your heartbeat.
I remember that.
Right? It goes up and it goes down. And it'll keep doing that. And that means that you're alive. What happens when you die? Flatlines, right? And this is crazy because to think that connects with the Dr. Seuss quote, which I'd say connects to Buddhism. Because one thing in Buddhism that, like, this is the number one thing that the Buddha teaches is life is suffering. That is the biggest principle around the religion is that, or I'll say the philosophy because that's what it's mainly referred to as, right? Is life is suffering. The only way to, and basically you're in a constant state of reincarnation until you can attain enlightenment, where you no longer have worldly attachments and you move past reincarnation. You stop living.
So you're never born again.
Exactly.
So after I die, I'm not going to be born again as a person.
So what has been taught is simply that if you want to live, you have to go through suffering. What happens when you stop suffering? You never get to live. You stop living. Exactly. So you need to be able to experience suffering to be able to live.
Because only by experiencing suffering can you experience happiness.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, this is the biggest thing. Happiness, suffering, all these things, they're subjective. What are they subjective to? It's your frame of reference, right? It's just like a physics problem, right? At the end of the day, what are you comparing it to? Because let's say I win $1 million. If everyone around me was a billionaire, it wouldn't look that good, right? Yeah. But if I was around people who had no money at all, of course, that would be the best day of my life. And if I didn't have money, it would be the same thing, right? I would be super happy.
Exactly. Like when a billionaire makes an extra, adds a $1 million to their net worth, you think it matters? You think Elon Musk cares when he goes from $280 billion, 980 million to 280,981 million?
No.
When it goes up 1 million, that was a horrible way to put it, but he doesn't care.
Yeah.
But if somebody in the street somewhere got $1 million, that
would change their life.
It would just absolutely transform that person's life.
Yeah.
Because it's all based on reference.
It's reference. It's
right?
all about the frame of reference.
That's all it is. is that what is great to you may not be great to somebody else. So you need to find happiness in those moments.
Exactly.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, first of all, who experiences these things?
Exactly.
You. Second of all, who deals with the consequences of how you think? You. So first of all, don't look at anybody else when it comes time for you to reflect on yourself, and don't let other people's success or happiness
Yeah.
detract from your own.
Imagine, like, for example, going back to the $1 million to one person is nothing, but to somebody else it's everything, right?
Yeah.
Is you come home and you've got food on the table and 2 parents in your house. You take somebody on the other side of the world that may not have that goes home to nothing, to no one, to have barely enough money to put, maybe not even enough money to put food on the table, scrapping to live, right?
Let's talk about Life of Pi. This guy is on a boat in the middle of the ocean with a tiger.
Yeah, he's got nothing.
He got no
nothing.
friends, no family, nothing. His whole family drowned.
Yeah.
It's over.
Right? But imagine if he got one meal, one free meal gifted to him. That would mean the world to him.
Like God just bestows a rotisserie chicken upon his boat.
Yeah. But
He'd
for
be
us,
overjoyed.
You can get a meal maybe let's say that you buy yourself a lunch, you buy yourself a breakfast, but you make yourself a nice dinner. You got that dinner that somebody else in the world didn't, right?
Didn't have.
Enjoy that, right? Now, that's the biggest thing, is enjoying the little things in life. We all want to enjoy the biggest accomplishments of our life, which is so important. But to understand that the little steps along the way are just as important is the real key, right? Because what will every single person that's ever succeeded tell you? It's not about the destination.
It's about the journey.
Exactly. It's always about the journey. We've been told this forever. This has been around since the dark ages, okay?
Yeah.
This has been a quote forever.
And
but for some reason, we still refuse to look at
people
the light
just don't
on
follow
the pathway.
Yeah.
Right?
They just don't follow it.
Like right now, I'd say that getting this podcast started was a pain.
Oh my God.
It was such a pain. So many technical issues, so many things. We've done recordings and it didn't work, and we've gone through hell trying to get this started. But regardless of that, I'd say that we still enjoyed all the pain that came along with it, right? Because we're happy that we were able to get to a place where we are, right? Because that's the truth, right? And think about every single one of the greatest athletes of all time. You know what they loved? Training. Think about Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it. He'd stay in the gym for hours and hours and hours past everybody else. He'd get up hours and hours before everybody else. He would stay in late and he would get up before, right? So this guy loved training. He loved the steps. He didn't just want to get into the NBA and then sit in the NBA, right? The reason why is that he loved training. He loved putting in the work, right? And that's the thing with all the greats, is that they love doing what they do, right? And they love every step that it took to get there, right? They love the way up.
I love that so many people are realizing this quote because Sam Sulek said it very recently. The man who loves walking will get much farther than the man who loves the destination.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A quote, once again, old as time, right? Everybody knows this quote, or at least now I hope you do. Most people do know it, and they've heard it before, and yet they still ignore applying it to their life.
Like, imagine you take somebody like, okay, this is an extreme example, but take David Goggins, right, who loves running. You tell him to run 20 miles, okay? Which to him probably isn't even that much,
It's
right?
nothing.
And then you take somebody who hates running and you say, hey, run 1 mile. The person that hates running is going to have a very horrible, painful mile. But the guy that loves running is going to run the 20 miles and enjoy it, right? Like, and of course, I'd say you take David Goggins like that kind of a person.
It's a very extreme example, but
I'd say, okay, take 2 average people. You tell one guy who loves running, like, assume that they're both in the same shape.
Same
right?
physical condition.
Same physical condition. So one guy run 5 miles, okay? One guy run 1 mile, right? The guy that enjoys running is going to run the 5 miles easily, right?
Yeah.
And even though he's probably experiencing a higher level of pain, he's enjoying the journey, the getting
So it
there.
doesn't feel like
pain.
pain
So it doesn't
to
feel,
him.
exactly, it doesn't feel like pain because it's all in your brain, right? If you see it as pain, you're like, I hate this. I want it to end. Let it stop, right? But like, think about people that push themselves in the gym, right? They love getting there and getting sore and doing the things that they may not want to do in the morning, right? Like, for example, you get up at 5 a.m., you want to go to the gym, and you just shred your body first thing in the morning, you feel sore the rest of the day. They see that as accomplishment, right? Other people see that as pain.
Exactly.
Right? So it's all based on perspective, right? What you see is what you feel.
Yeah, and
Right?
what you think is ultimately how you're gonna feel at the end of the
Exactly.
day. And that's how it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, remember that thinking is powerful. And as we come to the conclusion of this episode,
Yeah.
the biggest thing you want to take away is that happiness is all